I just want to ask you one question. When was the last time you were truly honest with your husband or wife and said that you were not okay? Not the kind of, "I've been a bit tired lately," and leave it at that. I mean really saying it fully, honestly naming exactly what was weighing on you in that moment. Think about it. Many people get to this point and pause, thinking for a long time, unable to remember. And that is exactly what I want to talk about today. There is something very strange I've noticed about people born in the 1980s. You are not cold. You are not incapable of love. But when problems begin to appear in a marriage, whether small or big, your first reaction is usually not to speak up. It is to swallow it. Handle it yourself. Carry on as if nothing is wrong. And the frightening part is not that you are hiding your emotions. It's that you've been doing it for so long that you no longer even realize you're doing it. This is not a personality trait. It is something you learned when you were very young. Did your father ever come home and say, "I'm really exhausted, I need to rest"? Or did he just eat, lie down, and say nothing? Did your mother ever tell you she was worried, afraid, or completely drained? Or did she simply wake up earlier, go to bed later, and keep going? You grew up watching that every single day. And your mind absorbed a very clear lesson: being strong means handling everything on your own. Needing help is weakness, and weakness is not allowed. Now you have a family of your own, but that lesson is still there, and quietly, it is creating a distance between you and your partner, a distance that both of you can feel, but neither of you knows how to name. I know many people, hearing this, will think, well, I do talk. I'm not completely silent. And that's true, no one is silent 100% of the time. You still talk to your spouse every day. You still discuss the kids, the finances, where to go or what to eat on the weekend. But there is a deeper layer that most of you never reach. A layer where you express what you are truly feeling, what you are truly afraid of, what you truly need from the other person. That layer many people from the 80s generation have almost never opened up to anyone. And the reason isn't as simple as people often say. It's not because you don't trust your spouse. It's not because your marriage isn't good enough. It's because long before all of this, you learned that emotions are dangerous if they are exposed. It may sound heavy, but it's true. When you were a child, every time you cried or showed vulnerability, what was the response from the adults around you? Stop crying. It's nothing. Look at others, they're not crying. You weren't taught how to process emotions. You were taught how to shut them down as quickly as possible so you could keep going. And when you do that enough times, your brain begins to automate the process to the point where now, when something happens, whether it's work, stress, loneliness, or anxiety about the future, you don't even consciously decide whether to speak up or not. Your body has already decided. Swallow it. Move on. Done. The problem is, what you swallow doesn't disappear. It just changes place. It stays there, builds up, and eventually starts leaking out in other ways. You become more irritable over small things. You lose interest in things that once brought you joy. You begin to feel like your partner is a stranger, even though you're still living under the same roof. And the strange part is your partner feels that distance too, but no one knows where it started. No one knows what to call it. So both of you just keep living like that, day after day, year after year. That's why I want to say this to you directly today, that silence is not normal. It's not just a mature personality trait. It's an old wound that is quietly affecting your marriage in ways you may not yet fully see. I want you to imagine a scene like this. A couple who have been married for over a decade. Nothing dramatic has happened. No one cheated, no one was abusive, there were no major crises at all. But one day, they sit down together and realize they are living more like roommates than husband and wife. They are polite to each other. They take care of each other materially. But they no longer truly know what the other person is thinking, feeling, or afraid of. That kind of scene is not rare, and it doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, over many years, beginning with exactly what I mentioned earlier, silence. This is how it unfolds in real life. When you repeatedly don't express what is going on inside you, your partner eventually stops asking. Not because they don't care, but because they've asked enough times and received enough "I'm fine" answers that their brain starts to learn that asking more is pointless. So they withdraw. And you, instead of recognizing that, interpret their withdrawal in a different way. They don't care about me anymore. And that makes you close off even more. The other person withdraws even further. The cycle continues. But there's something even more important to talk about. When you don't express your needs, it doesn't mean you don't have them, you still do. You still need to be heard, to be understood, to feel that someone is truly there with you. You just don't say it. And because you don't say it, the other person can't meet those needs not because they don't want to, but because they don't know. Over time, something very dangerous begins to build inside you. Resentment. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but the quiet, simmering kind. The kind that thinks, why can't they just understand me? The kind that makes you feel irritated over small things. The kind that slowly makes you want to sit next to each other less and less, without even knowing why. And what I find most painful is that most couples who reach this stage don't even realize they are there. They still believe their marriage is normal, because there are no big fights, no drama, nothing obvious to point to and say, this is the problem. Everything just gradually fades. The connection becomes thinner and thinner, and one day, they look back and don't know when they lost each other. That is the cost of prolonged silence. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's very real. And for people from the 80s generation, those who were raised to carry everything on their own, to not be a burden, to always appear okay, that cost is being quietly paid in many families right now. I know at this point many people will be thinking, okay, I get it, but what am I supposed to do now? And I want to be direct. I don't have a magical formula here. There's no step 1, step 2, step 3 that will suddenly make your marriage better, because this isn't that simple. It's rooted deeply in how you were shaped growing up, and things that deep don't change just by following a list of advice. But there is one thing I believe is a real starting point. It's not that you suddenly have to open up completely, telling your spouse everything tonight. It's not that. What I'm talking about is this: you begin to notice the difference between these two sentences. The first one, I'm fine. The second one, lately I've been a bit tired, and I don't really know why. They may sound similar, but the second sentence, even if it's short, even if you can't explain more yet, it opens a door. The first one closes everything. People from the 80s generation grew up believing that you have to fully understand your problem first, have a solution, know exactly what you need before you're allowed to speak. But that's an impossible standard, because the truth is, most of the time, we don't know exactly what we're feeling. We just know something isn't right. And saying that, I don't know, that is not weakness. It's the first step that allows the other person to step in with you. Instead of standing outside, not understanding anything, there's one more thing I want to say, and this might be a bit harder to hear. Many people in this generation don't stay silent because they're afraid of being judged. They stay silent because they don't believe that speaking up will actually change anything. They've handled everything on their own for so long that they no longer believe in the possibility of being helped. And that belief, or rather, that lack of belief, is what needs to be faced. Because if you don't believe the other person can carry even a small part of your burden, you will never give them the chance to try, and they will remain outside. Not because they don't want to come in, but because the door was never opened. Marriage doesn't require two perfect people. It doesn't require two people who are always strong. It requires two people who are willing to see each other, even the unfinished parts, the tired parts, the parts that don't know what to do next. And to be seen, you have to allow yourself to be seen first. That is something the 80s generation people who have carried too much for too long on their own deserve to learn. Not because they are weak, but because they have already been strong for long enough. And now, it's time to be strong in a different way. And I want to add one more thing that very few people are willing to admit. There are people in this generation who are not unwilling to speak. They want to, very much. But every time they are about to open their mouth, something blocks them. It's not logic. It's not a conscious thought of, better not say it. It's a physical sensation. The chest suddenly feels heavier, the throat tightens, and the words seem to disappear before they can even be spoken. If you've ever experienced that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And what I want you to understand is this. You are not choosing silence. Your body is reacting exactly the way it was programmed to, decades ago. You cannot simply will your way past that reflex in a single day. there is a psychological finding that I find deeply thought-provoking. It shows that people who grow up in environments where emotions are not welcomed, not necessarily abusive or unloving environments, but simply ones where emotions are not talked about, develop a very subtle mechanism as adults. They don't just hide their emotions from others. They begin to hide them from themselves. They don't realize they are sad until the sadness becomes overwhelming. They don't realize they are lonely until the loneliness turns numbing. They don't realize they need help until everything has become too heavy to carry alone. And that is why, in marriage, the issue is not simply talk more to your spouse, because before you can speak to the other person, you have to learn how to hear yourself first. You have to learn to recognize, yes, right now I'm not okay. Right now I'm afraid. Right now I need something, even if I don't yet know what to call it. That skill, simple as it may sound, is something many people from the ATS generation were never taught. No one showed them. It wasn't in school. It wasn't part of how they were raised. And now, at 35 or 40, they have to learn it from scratch, while still carrying dozens of other responsibilities at the same time. I'm not saying this to excuse the silence. I'm saying it so you understand that if you see yourself in what I've just described, you are not abnormal. You are not cold or incapable of love. You are simply carrying a weight that you were never allowed to put down. And marriage, if it is built the right way, can become the first place in your life where you are truly allowed to set it down, not because you are weak, but because you have finally found someone you trust enough to do so. But that person cannot wait forever, not because they lack patience, but because no one can keep trying to connect with someone they cannot reach. No matter how much they love you, no matter how hard they try, if you remain behind a pane of glass, eventually they will stop knocking, not because they gave up, but because their hands grew tired. I want to end with just one question. Not a question for you to answer me, but a question for you to take home tonight, sit with, and truly think about. Does your partner really know who you are? Not the version you are trying to present. Not the one who is always okay, always capable, always handling everything, but the real you, the one who is sometimes tired without knowing why, sometimes afraid but unable to say it, sometimes just needing to sit next to someone without having to be strong. Do they know that person exists? Or are you the only one who knows them? People from the ATS generation grew up carrying too much on their own. And I'm not saying that out of sympathy. I'm saying it because it's the truth. And sometimes, that very strength, that ability to handle everything alone, becomes the thing that stands between you and the person you love the most. Not because you don't want to be closer, but because you've been carrying everything by yourself for so long that you no longer know how to let someone else step in. But marriage is not a place where you continue to carry everything alone. It is the one place in life where you are allowed, truly allowed, to put the weight down. Not because you are weak, but because that is why the other person is there. If today's video touched something in you even just a little, I don't think the most important thing is to like or subscribe. It's to go home tonight, look into your partner's eyes, and say one honest sentence. Just one. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to explain everything. It just has to be real. That is the first step. And sometimes, one first step is enough for everything to begin to change.